Hey, Jordan.
Hey, Joe.
Did you hear about the cow who went to prison for armed robbery?
No, I didn't hear about the cow who went to prison for armed robbery.
Yeah.
No.
He really had to face the music. Hey, welcome to the Sacred Cow Podcast, your only trusted source for two 20-somethings talking passionately about things that they may or may not know anything about.
You forgot to add the white guy part. Do it again. Start from the top.
Welcome to... Was that not good enough for you?
No, that was perfect.
Okay,
I loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It made me...
Do you feel self-conscious about your cold openings?
No, not really.
You don't have
I
to.
think they're great.
I think they're great too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's just you're a hard guy to read sometimes.
I know. I'm sorry. It's my stoic demeanor.
Everybody always says that about me too.
Yeah.
It's like I get like a lot of crap for just being like, well, you're not a very energetic person.
You don't seem happy ever.
Why aren't you happy right now? Are you not having
Because
fun?
I'm not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. I'll catch you later, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast.
Joe, what are we talking about this week?
All right. So this week we are talking about Christian dating, and more specifically with a wacky subtitle. We're talking about the famous DTR, or the Define the Relationship.
You know, I had never heard that before the other day.
Seriously?
I didn't know what a DTR was.
You never had like a youth pastor?
No.
You never had a youth pastor?
I never had a youth pastor. No, I've never heard the term DTR.
Oh, okay. So
Explain
I
it
guess
to me.
we're define the relationship?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're... Oh my gosh. It's like trying to explain to a bat what the sun is. All right. You're blind, and it's the big golden thing that sits in the sky when you sleep. Okay, so define the relationship is when things are going really well with you and a significant other, and you're pretty certain that she's into you or he's into you, and you want to take it to the next level. You want to make it official. You want to say that you're actually dating now. So you have define the relationship where, you know, things are going really good, and you sit down and you're like, hey, what are we right now? Are we going to date? Like, are we just like messing around? Like, it's basically just saying like, what are your intentions? And being upfront with your proposed significant other, like what you're actually doing and if you're like messing around or not. So basically the way that it worked in my life was I would really like a girl, or my friend would really like a girl, or somebody would really like a girl. And we would talk about it a lot. And then a youth pastor, youth leader would come in and be like, did you define the relationship? Are you guys just messing around right now? What do you think you're doing?
Like, yeah, I am.
Yeah. But basically it would just be like, oh, you're really interested in her. You don't know how she feels. What if you actually talked about it?
Gotcha.
And then you sit down, you define the relationship, and hopefully you come through the other side. I never had a define the relationship not go well. So maybe somebody out there who's not me and not Jordan, because Jordan didn't even know what it was until 2 seconds ago, could explain if we ever had comments. I know that that's not likely, but if we ever have comments, maybe you can share in those comments about a time when a define the relationship did not go well.
Yeah.
But they always went well for me.
I did those.
Humble brag.
I just, yeah. I've never struggled in any of my relationships.
That's not what I said.
I did that. I always did that. I didn't know it had like a specific name, like it defined the relationship. For me, it was always the like boyfriend girlfriend talk. Like,
that's what you called it?
Well, I mean, that's what I called it.
Did you have friends that you talked about it with? Like,
myself.
hey, I really like this girl. I want to go out with this girl. We're going to have a conversation about it.
It was every time I would have a talk like that, or a talk like that would happen, it would be in the context of already dating. Like, it'd be in the context of like, I've already been on like 8 dates with this girl. Are you my girlfriend?
Okay,
at this point?
So did
like,
you call them dates?
Yeah.
Oh, so you were the kind of person who would just like be like, let's go out on a date.
Yeah, I would just ask I would try and make my intentions 100% known from the very beginning. Like, I think you're cute. Do you want to go out with me on a date?
Dang.
Yeah.
You're just a straightforward person.
I try to be, man.
So, like, all the relationships that I had where I actually had to have a define the relationship at DTR, we were already really good friends.
Okay. I can see, I kind of get that angle more if you're like really good friends with somebody first, and then you like start hanging out and you think like the feelings are there and you're like, hey, you maybe want to.
Yeah, every significant relationship that I was through was like that, where it's like we're just friends and we hang out all the time.
Gotcha. I have never experienced that.
Oh, oof.
Oh, I guess. Okay, so my wife and I were friends first.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like there was a very clear asking out point.
Yeah.
You know, it was never just like we didn't like organically grow into a relationship, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. So.
Oh, okay. You forced it.
That makes it so bad. I did not force my relationship with my wife.
Well,
no,
did she force it on you?
A little bit. No. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just like a straightforward person kind of, and I don't like not knowing what's going on.
Okay. You
so
have no
like,
deep and seething underbelly of...
No, I demand to know exactly what's going on in any given moment.
That's pretty diva-esque.
Yeah. I am a diva. I don't know. I don't know if you knew that.
You're just like trying to like slowly navigate.
Yeah.
You're not trying to like leave anything to the imagination.
No, absolutely not. I don't got time for that because my this is gonna sound so bad. My perspective growing up was like, oh, if this girl doesn't like me, then that just means I can find a different girl sooner. that was, and not even in like, because I was a good Christian boy, so it wasn't like I wasn't trying to girl hop or anything. But I was just like...
That's not what that sounds like.
I was just like, either this girl likes me or she doesn't, and I need to figure that out right now so I don't waste my time pursuing something.
You didn't have like the first girlfriend heartbreak?
Well, Joe, that's a different story. But not in that way, I don't think.
What do you mean in what way? Not in what way?
Not in the way where I was like unsure of what was going on.
Oh, what do you mean unsure? I don't think that's what I mean.
Okay.
You have a first girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
You're super into her.
Yeah.
And then she just up and like
dating.
one day. Yeah, you're like official. You've already had the DTR.
Uh-huh.
And one day she's just like, yeah, this isn't working out. See you later. Bye. And you're like, oh, because you put so much into that relationship that.
Yeah, that sucked.
Is
that intertwined with the DTR? Maybe that's why none of my high school relationships ever worked out, because I didn't have a DTR. Is that like the secret?
Well, I had a DTR and none of my high school relationships worked out. So
yeah,
I'm just saying, like, you were just like, I need to move on. You just seemed to bounce back pretty quick. I didn't bounce back quickly.
I don't know if I bounced back quickly. I just always had that philosophy of like, okay, I like that it wasn't going to happen, you know?
Oh,
like,
you were just very realistic?
I guess so.
Okay.
I guess that's the word for it.
I was starry-eyed.
Oh, yeah.
Misty.
You're like, I can win her back.
Yeah,
I can
unironically,
get her back.
dude. I had some relationship. Okay, I had some Christian relationships.
I'm gonna pause you right there. I like how we started to have like an actual topic, and now we're just like talking about our own relationships with each other. But I like it. Keep going.
What's the problem here?
No problem.
Is this not good enough for you?
No,
because this is me. This is
going.
real.
Keep going.
We're gonna make it. Hey, if you're listening and you don't care about this, it's not getting any better. So you can
lower your expectations right now.
Dang, I don't know what I was gonna say now.
Winning a girl back, you were starry-eyed.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple of like Christian relationships. I say Christian relationships because they weren't like super inappropriate or anything, but there was definitely a girl where I was like, there's still hope.
Yeah,
I can get this back.
Did it happen? Did you get it back?
It almost did.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Dang.
But that was when I realized that I was... It was just like one of the relationships where it was like, this isn't going anywhere. And I guess it's kind of when I woke up to the idea of like, oh, what do I actually want to have in a relationship?
Mm-hmm. I do kind of have a story like that. I just remembered this. I did kind of try and win a girl back at one point, and she like alley-ooped me and made me look like an idiot.
Wait,
like,
what do you mean? What does that mean?
Pulled one over on me. So I broke up with this girl.
Oh.
We were dating in high school.
She reverse Uno'd you.
She reverse Uno'd me, yeah. I broke up with her, and then at some point we were talking like we were still friends or whatever, because you know when you're in high school you're dumb and you think you can do stuff like that, like remain.
We can talk
friends
about
with
that
your
more
exes.
later.
We were still talking or whatever, and she at one point was just like, you know, I realized I had messed up or whatever. I think I can make this work. Will you give me another chance for this relationship? And I was like,
dang.
I don't know, man.
That's super honest.
I'm not feeling it. Well, wait, there's more.
Okay.
I'm getting to the good part. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. So for like 2 weeks, she was like, I want to give us another go. And I was finally like, I finally talked myself into it where I was like, you know what? I was too harsh on her. She seems really sincere. Like, I think we should give this another shot. And so in person, I talked to her. I was like, you know what? I think you're right. I really want to give us another shot. And she was just like, actually, I changed my mind. I don't want to get back together with you.
Nice.
Like, so
I just
heartbroken.
wanted to hear you say,
yeah, actually,
that it was a mistake to break up.
Devious, diabolical. I have so much, like, it hurt in the moment. I have so much respect for her now because that's such a funny thing to do to someone. Hilarious.
Okay, we do not endorse you. We do not endorse.
Don't do that, please.
Emotionally manipulating people or
hindsight makes it really funny, though.
You should always say what you mean and mean
Yeah.
what you say.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean you can't change your mind, but like maybe think about things
yeah.
for a while before you.
Yeah.
I can think of a lot of problems that would be solved in my own life if I just sat and thought about it a little bit more before I actually did something about it.
Mm-hmm.
So take with that what you will.
Yeah.
I think there's some wisdom there.
So Christian dating is a fun topic because we've just been talking about us as Christians, and we were dating. Although I don't know how good of a Christian I was in high school, but that's a topic for
how do you
time.
define good?
Oh boy. Okay, so
you talk to me about like the whole purity culture thing, like a little bit. Did you like do anything? Like, were you influenced by that at all?
So I don't think I was personally influenced by it at all. It was definitely a big thing in like my youth group in my church growing up, as was the case for most people, I feel like.
In the Western world.
Yeah, like I had friends and family who went to the silver ring thing.
Yeah,
do you remember that?
I went.
You went to the silver ring
I actually wore.
Dang,
this is
dude.
not an endorsement of the silver ring thing. There's nuance that needs to be had there, but I did wear my silver ring until I got married.
Dang,
I have
Look
a funny.
at you.
I have a funny story about that. By the way,
1 in 100 that it
no. So I'm just going for it.
Yeah,
this is my funny story.
Just go for it.
When I was like 12, I got the silver ring.
Yeah.
Right. And I wore it, and it had like First Thessalonians or whatever, abstain from whatever. And then like in high school, I sort of did like this heel turn where like I wasn't super like invested in Christianity or my faith at all.
Yeah.
And I just kind of stopped caring about it. And I went swimming in a lake.
Okay.
And I lost it. Like not intentionally.
Yeah.
But like I wasn't heartbroken about it.
Mm-hmm.
It just like slipped off my finger or whatever. It was really weird.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I guess it's gone now. So I was working at a summer camp and I was washing dishes. And then I kid you not, a week later, one of the lifeguards walks in and hands me. I had never met this lifeguard, never had a conversation. She looks at me and she's like, somebody said this was yours. And it was my ring from the silver ring thing.
How did anyone
I have no
even
idea.
find that?
But I took it as a sign. I took it as an omen.
Yeah.
No, I do not endorse omens. I took it as a sign that God wanted me to have it. And then I wore it until I got married. I think my wife still has it.
Is crazy. You know that? I think that might be a God thing.
It might have been. Because
do you think it positively influenced you in your like?
Yeah, for sure. Because I was at a place in my life where I wasn't like I was ready. I wasn't ready to give it up because I was so culturally entwined in Christianity. But I was definitely like very apathetic.
Yeah, gotcha.
And I had a lot of people Christians in my life who I thought would talk and not walk. And I don't, to this day, I don't know if they actually were or not, because your perspective isn't great when you're young. But
yeah,
in any case, it did impact me positively, and I kept it.
Dang, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I
I'm
did
not
have a
endorsing.
silver ring.
I'm not endorsing the silver ring thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Continue with what you were saying.
I don't remember what I was saying. Oh,
You were
it was
talking-
big in my church culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But it didn't like influence you at all.
I think I was always. I shouldn't say that. I think part of it just missed me, where I was just like slightly too young for it when it was like really big, you know? Because I was like, I don't know, I was like 13 maybe when it was like really in full swing.
Dude, did you dodge purity culture?
A little bit.
Dang.
A little bit. And like I was in youth group, but I was like the youngest kid in youth group, you know what I mean? And so it was like a thing for all the older kids, and then nobody was like really concerned about me too much. So I kind of dodged it. And then I think another part of me was just like, oh, this seems kind of, I don't want to wear a ring. Seems kind of lame. So
I was always looking for accessories.
yeah, were you a big accessory guy?
This is why I have tattoos, because I just get bored with
Because
like,
they're permanent accessories.
yeah.
Yeah. I got you. I feel that. Yeah.
I just got bored with like, I don't know. I just alienated a portion of our audience by saying I have tattoos, I'm sure. But like
We'll talk about that.
a portion
at
of
some
the
point.
audience who's our moms.
Yeah. Sorry, Mom.
But
I'm so sorry.
yeah, but that's why I kept it, because I was like, oh, cool, a ring. I was big into
Gotcha.
the bracelet things. You remember those big like rubber bracelets that every teenage event
Yeah,
had a
yeah,
million
yeah.
of those.
Yeah. Did you wear what were the shoes called that everybody had? The really obnoxious, colorful ones. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No,
You'd get them at Spencer's. They're all like,
we didn't have a Spencer's around here.
oh man, what are they called? It'll come back to me.
The wheelie things? The
No.
things with wheels on them? Because
They
those were
were-
dope.
They were there was like a specific brand that everybody would buy and wear, and it was like huge in emo culture. It wasn't DC's. It was like, I can't remember.
DC's were everywhere.
DC's were everywhere, dude. I rocked DC's.
I
had
thought
so many
they were
pairs
so
of
cool.
DC's.
I was a Converse kid.
Yeah.
I had my Chucks, but
Mm-hmm.
and I had Vans, but because Vans never go out of style.
Dude, Vans are so good.
Yeah. We should talk about dating.
We should talk about dating eventually. Did you ever get into, were you influenced by like, so you were in purity culture, full on like silver ring thing?
I guess a little bit.
Were you in the whole like you should court and not date side
Oh,
of
okay.
purity
So
culture?
I was homeschooled,
Yeah.
and so like the Christian curriculum was mixed into what I was doing. And I remember taking this Bible doctrine class. But the doctrine was just like, so biblical doctrine is specifically doctrine that's extrapolated from Scripture. So it's supposed to be like theology doctrine for living that is taken specifically from Scripture.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that often we did our verses out of context episode, but like you sometimes you run the risk of taking verses out of context and applying them into situations that they may not.
Right.
But there was this section in it that was talking about courtship, and it was sort of like advocating for a return
Yeah.
to like courtship, which I never really got like a good definition on,
It's like
what the difference is between dating and courtship.
it's like, from what I can gather, and I might be totally wrong on this, because it is really hard to pin down like an exact definition, is it's like spending, not necessarily dating, like not necessarily going on dates with someone, but it's like spending quality time with a person with the intention of finding out whether or not they'd make a good wife or husband for you.
So how is that different than?
Well, we're gonna get into it. I have a very hot take. I think,
What's your hot take?
I think courting is really stupid.
Okay.
It's really dumb, because I agree with you. I think dating done properly does the exact same thing, and I think it's kind of stupid to like separate those two things from each other.
Let's define dating.
Okay.
Jordan, what's dating?
Dating is being intentional about spending time with someone you like in order to foster a relationship.
Exclusively.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, you don't spend time, hopefully.
Well, some people will like go on casual dates with multiple people at the same time. I did not do that. I have never done that. And because if we're talking about like the definition, I would probably still define that as, well, maybe I think there's a difference between going on dates and dating someone. Let's start there, I guess.
Okay, so going on dates is obviously just like, hey, do you want to go
going on a date? And then
something,
dating
and then
somebody
there's the
is
idea,
being intentional with one person.
Maybe something romantic will happen.
Yeah.
But dating is like you're exclusive with, like you're only with this person.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like I'm dating this
person.
So
what's your hot take is that dating and courtship, or dating is better than courtship?
I don't know if I would say better. I just think courtship is unnecessary.
Why? Because
dating done properly accomplishes everything that courtship wants to do. And I think we can talk about this a little later if you want, but about how destructive purity culture ended up being to most people. Mm-hmm. I think calling something courtship and putting so much emphasis and weight on teenagers to figure out who they want to marry is incredibly hurtful and destructive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's my hot take. So I don't think courtship should be, I guess if you're like 20 something and you're like, I don't believe in dating.
So you think that's fine? The problem of courtship was that just put too much pressure on people to find out now who they're going to marry and spend the rest of their life with?
Yeah, this is a very hot take in, I guess, most of the evangelical circles I'm in is like, I don't see an issue with dating and I don't have any problem with like teenagers dating. And I think it's very destructive if you put pressure on teenagers to date solely for the reason of like getting married to someone. And that is not to say that you should be like casual in your relationships. I'm not saying like teenagers should sleep around and figure out who they want to be or whatever. Mm-hmm. I just think that you are allowed to date someone as a teenager, as a kid who is not an adult. Like, and that is fine.
But like, so I guess in my mind, what is the difference between dating and hanging out then? Because if you're just like, what you're saying is like, you just go on like dates to what's the purpose of doing it if not to?
It depends.
Just to hang out with people?
If you define hanging out as like, I'm going to spend, because we already clarified that this is talking about somebody that you are romantically interested in.
Yeah.
And you want to foster a romantic relationship with. So it's not like just hanging out. It's not like hanging out like friends hang out. Mm-hmm. It's hanging out with the intention of fostering a relationship. I just am not convinced that relationship needs to be focused and emphasized as leading to a marriage necessarily. Like, I don't think it's healthy to tell two 15-year-olds who are just like figuring out what a relationship is that like, if you're not intending on marrying this person, you're wasting their time and yours. It's like, no, dude.
But that's the mindset that you had, Jordan.
kids should, again, I know this is a hot take. Kids should be allowed to date. Teenagers should be allowed to go on dates with people they like for fun. Again, that doesn't mean you're casual with it. That doesn't mean you like, throw yourself or your body around. That just means
the Sacred Cow podcast does not endorse the the casual sexual relationship of the modern era.
I'm so glad we're not planning on monetizing these. Yeah, I just think that I think that the relationships I had throughout high school, a lot of it was toxic, but a lot of it also taught me how to act in a relationship. And I think that my current relationship with my wife is better because I dated in high school and didn't put so much pressure on it where I was like, this has to be the girl I marry.
Yeah, this is the one.
Yeah. So I think again, teenagers are adults in a sense, but they are still kids in a sense. And I think kids should be allowed to just like hang out and have fun and kind of like, I think of it as like training wheels for real adult relationships. Like you should be able to have the safety and comfort and security of like kind of figuring out what a relationship looks like when you're a teenager without having the huge pressure of like, you have to marry this person or you are wasting your time.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute.
Please do. Hit me.
I don't necessarily disagree. I guess here's the good in what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
The good in what you're saying is like teenagers in a pivotal point in their life, they should have a space where they can learn how to develop a good, healthy relationship with somebody.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be able to do that unless you have practice. I think we mentioned at some point in this podcast, or the last one, we were talking about like how you just don't know how to do anything
right
until you learn how to do it. Like you didn't know 100% of the things that you know now at one point in your life. You had to learn those things. So being in a relationship is work.
Mm-hmm.
It takes effort, and so you need to have a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
It's a buzzword.
Yeah.
I don't mean what people normally mean when they say safe space. But you need to have a space where you can sort of like understand how a relationship works and functions and what kind of relationship that you want in the future.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, the bad in what you're saying is that teenagers in having a space where they can, I'm going to say like learn to have relationships, that can go crazy because teenagers don't know how to have relationships, generally speaking.
Sure.
So not to mention like the whole hormones going crazy, which is just like, it's not even like me trying to be like a stick in the mud about anything. It's just like a reality is that there's a physical aspect to this where your body is developing and changing in this certain way. And it's actually probably not very wise for you to be in a situation where you can develop like an unhealthy attachment to somebody, or because the reality of it is that to understand how a relationship works, sometimes you have to have relationships not work. And your teenage years are prime time for you to like not have good relationship experiences because you don't actually understand.
Yeah.
It's a two-edged sword.
Mm-hmm. I see what you're saying. I think I would say there's danger in teenagers having romantic relationships at all. Like you were saying, hormones running wild. Like that is not a thing you can avoid or negate in any way. It's just going to happen. Outside of like, you know, I know some parents are like, my kid is not dating until they're 18, which works sometimes.
I'm looking at you, Luca.
Very rarely. Because I had a bunch of friends growing up who weren't allowed to date until they were 18, but they definitely were dating people behind their parents' backs. I don't know if that's, you know, I'm not making a comment on how to parent your kid right now. I'm just saying it's not super avoidable. And the alternative, I think, in my head, the alternatives are you foster this super toxic environment for your kid where you put all this pressure on them and you're like, you have to marry this person. And they get a very unhealthy view of relationships through that. They don't date at all through high school, and then they hit college and they have no idea how to be in a relationship or even how to ask somebody out, which is a huge issue. You know how many kids at my Bible college were just like, didn't date, not because they didn't clearly have the opportunity to date, but because they had never been in a relationship before and they were so awkward and they didn't know how to ask each other out, and they just like didn't know what they were doing. Thing. Well, I agree with you, but like I would, for me, coming from somebody who's not a parent yet, I think much rather have my kid be a dumb high schooler in relationships and make certain, not all mistakes, but I would take them making certain mistakes in dating throughout high school and learning how to do that, and then being a good boyfriend or a good girlfriend when they get older and actually pursuing a really healthy relationship with someone, than the alternative which is most likely, again, not always, I'm generalizing here, most likely really awkward and not fruitful, and they might miss opportunities that they just don't know are there. And then, because we're going through like a loneliness epidemic in the US right now. Most young people are not in relationships or getting married. So,
or they're, yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's just me. I would err on one side of that over the other.
The problem is a lot of those mistakes that you're prone to and probably going to make in high school dating relationship are permanent and lasting.
I think you are thinking of bigger mistakes than I'm necessarily saying. I'm saying like my son should learn that you can't just like ignore a girl for 5 days and expect her to be like happy-go-lucky about it. Those are like the little mistakes that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like bring your date flowers on Valentine's Day. You should know how to do that. And I've met, again, maybe this is super anecdotal and just like my experience. I know so many like college-aged people who don't know really basic stuff like that, like completely clueless to it. Mm-hmm. So I don't want teenagers to make huge life-changing mistakes. I am not advocating for that. I want to be very clear. I am not advocating for huge life-changing mistakes. But I think you have to, like at the end of the day, you kind of have to err on one side or the other here. You have to be like, I don't want my child to date throughout high school because they're young and immature and they don't know what they're doing. And you have to accept that might end up negatively impacting their future relationships. Or you have to say, it's okay if my child dates and I'm just going to try and like support them and create a safe space and teach them not to make very stupid mistakes and hope they listen to me and know that they might make mistakes in a relationship, but that will likely lead to them being healthier, or the chance to them to find a healthier relationship in the long run.
I'm just curious what that like actually looks like practically speaking, because I just don't even know what that would look like. Like, how do you allow and facilitate a positive dating relationship when you're in high school as a parent? Because you're either going to be looking over your kid's shoulder and being like, hey, this is what you say, or this is what you do. Or B, you're going to be letting them go crazy and try and figure out what it is on their own. And I think, you see what I'm saying? Like, I just have this flashing light of like just letting your child do whatever they think is right.
Yeah.
And that's like, I mean, hopefully you've been raising your kid well up to that point. Mm-hmm. But like the reality of it is that you're turning somebody loose who has probably very little social skills, mm-hmm. and is in like the most like, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? The most, I guess, the time in their life where the most change is happening, mm-hmm. and the most formation is happening.
Yeah. I think the answer lies in actually communicating with your child really well, which I think a lot of parents are not great at. But I think, statistically...
I mean, the reality of it is that you can be as good as you want with communicating with your child, and then as soon as your child hits puberty, all of that can go out the window.
Sure. Yeah. I think that statistically, kids who feel like they have an open relationship with their parents where they can actually talk and communicate freely, mm-hmm. do not break rules nearly as often as
I agree
as strict parents,
for sure.
So
I've heard it said, my church says this all the time, mm-hmm. Rules without relationship equals rebellion.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have a meaningful relationship with your child or they have no reason to follow your rules. That's just the way that it works.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe this is super
I said my church, our church, Jordan.
Our church. Maybe this is super idyllic of me, but I would hope that you can have that relationship with your kid and you can be like, hey, it's okay for you to date and like ask girls out. If you're young, you probably need a chaperone. Like, I'm not anti-chaperone.
Okay, good.
I'm not letting like 12-year-olds go off alone. But
what about 15-year-olds?
All right. 16, well, now we're getting into the nuanced
18.
discussion.
Do you want to fence with this? Like, I see you're 12 and I raise you 15.
I think there is nothing that. Okay, this is. Now we're getting into the weeds.
You don't have to get into the weeds if you don't want to, man. I'm just trying to understand your perspective.
I think hopefully if you have a good communication with your child and you talk about their relationship with them, you get excited. You're like, oh, I heard you asked out like this girl or whatever. You know, I will like take you guys to the movies or whatever you want to do, and then talk to them after and be like, how do you go? How do you feel? Like, actually let your child have relationship with you and talk about their relationships with you. I think that goes a long way with them probably acting how they should act, and then you have the opportunity to like speak into their lives in those situations.
I mean, yeah, if you don't have a relationship, you're not going to be able to, like, if you don't talk, you're not going to talk.
Yeah,
so you should talk more. I just don't know that that's going to always end up where you are suggesting that it will end up.
I guess, yeah, but that's just, I don't know. It's kind of life, man. Like, there's always going to be outliers to everything. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. Like, none of this, you might hear this, mom, the one person on this podcast, you might hear this and be like, that's great advice. I'm going to raise my child exactly like that. And it might completely blow up in your face. And that doesn't necessarily mean the advice is bad, although it could be. I'm not saying I'm like an expert in any of this. But yes, like, that's just the reality of a sin nature, man, is like people are gonna make mistakes. Yeah. And there is absolutely nothing that you can do to prevent that. I think for me, with, again, as somebody who doesn't have kids yet, for me, it would be a more important focus for me as a dad to have a really good, strong relationship with my children than to necessarily spend all my energy trying to make sure that they don't do anything bad. Mm-hmm. That would be my focus. And that would extend into dating.
Yeah, but you have to understand how to have a relationship with your child first.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
I feel like this kind of ties in a little bit to the last podcast when we were talking about passages out of context. And that one Proverbs passage where I forget the reference because I don't have the Bible memorized, but like, train up the child.
You don't have the Bible memorized?
Train up a child in the way that he should go and they won't depart from it. Mm-hmm. It, like, people talk about that like it's a guarantee all the time.
Yeah.
And I've seen families, good Christian families, where the children are raised in the exact same way, and one grows up and decides that they don't want anything to do with Christianity, obviously, and one grows up and decides that they do want, like, their faith is going to continue into their adulthood, right?
Sure.
So, like, it is possible to quote something that you may or may not know, to make no mistakes and still lose. Mm-hmm. Like, you can go into something with the best possible intentions and do everything in the most biblical way that you possibly know how to do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get the same result across the board. And that's because of sin nature, because there's chaos around us, and it just doesn't always work out the way that we want it to.
Yeah.
So we trust the one who's in control of it.
We live in a fallen world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a dating hot take.
Amen. Hit me.
How much time we got left?
We have so much time.
Okay. My dating hot take is specifically to do with the DTR.
Okay.
And I took this is not my hot take. This came from somebody else. I took a marriage and family class, which was pretty good. Mm-hmm. I took it after I was married. Mm-hmm. So even better. Just learn all the ways that you're messing up in your marriage. It's great.
Yeah,
so my hot take is that the define the relationship conversation often happens too soon in a relationship.
Okay.
And we talk about boundaries a lot, because the first thing that you do when you're dating and you're in a Christian relationship is you want to talk about your usually physical boundaries. Mm-hmm. And I think you should postpone that conversation as long as possible.
You're not an advocate of shoulder to knee purity.
I'm going to explain why I think you should prolong this conversation. I think that you should prolong the conversation because the second I know what your boundaries are, I can get as...
I'm going to break them.
No. Well, The thing of it is best possible intentions. Like you go into a relationship and your boundary line is like here. Like he's like, I can only hold hands. Like I'm not going to go any further than that. Right? That's the line for me. Now you're going to hold hands for the rest of your relationship, and you're going to know that if you do anything else other than holding hands, you're going to have violated your own boundary. And if you violate one boundary, you're willing to violate all of the boundaries. The problem is with discussing what those boundaries are is that now you can just ride right up to the line, and for however long you're going to date, you're going to sit at that line of your boundary. And man, oh man, does the other side of breaking that boundary look really good, and as time progresses, looks more and more desirable until you finally do break that boundary because you've been standing on the line for it for your entire relationship.
Yeah.
So you should prolong that conversation and let it be super awkward for a little while so that for your entire relationship, you're not constantly being tempted to push the boundary that you put in place. That's my hot take.
But Joe, aren't you worried that these kids will push past these boundaries and do something they're not supposed to do?
Yeah, without realizing it. When you're in the beginning of a relationship...
Are you advocating for letting your teenage children make mistakes?
I'm more talking about consenting adults. Christian adults. I'm not even going to deal with the teenager thing.
Do Christian adults... Okay, never mind. I'm not going to say that. I was going to say, do Christian adults need a DTR? But that sounded very judgmental.
For people who generally like to be friends with their potential suitors.
Well, yeah, that's my problem.
Yeah. That's another hot take is I genuinely, passionately believe that you should be good friends with somebody before you start dating them. Do you want to talk about that? Or do you want me to keep talking about the boundary conversation?
No, I want you to expand on the boundary conversation, and then we'll come back to the good friends first.
The thing of it is, dude, this is from my own experience. Like, whenever I knew there was a boundary, I was like, okay, I can go that far. And that's a terrible mindset to have when you're in a relationship with somebody. It's like, how far can I actually push this?
Yeah.
And it's like, I can go this far, but I can't go this far. And so I'm going to sit here on this, like, almost breaking this boundary for the entire relationship. You're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
You are setting yourself up for failure. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have boundaries, but, like, the reality of it is that you're going to make this as difficult as possible for yourself to be, I don't want to say pure, but like to not break those boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to make this as difficult as I possibly can. And somehow I'm going to be the only person who ever doesn't break these boundaries, like in the entire existence of humanity.
Yeah.
I'm not going to struggle with it.
I'm the only hormone-infused boy who's not going to cross this line.
Only person who can beat it.
Yeah. No, I think I agree 100%. I think that, again, just like, you need to marry this person, I think boundaries are often overemphasized in relationships to a fault. Not that boundaries are a bad thing.
Yeah. I'm not saying you should not have boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay. You should have boundaries. You should know where the line is.
Sure.
The problem, again, is that in the beginning of your relationship, you're going to define what those boundaries are, and then you're going to want to break that boundary for the rest of your relationship. So unless you're defining it and planning on getting married in a month, you're going to want to push that boundary the entire time. This is reality. This is sin nature. As soon as you tell somebody that they shouldn't do something, what is it that you want to do, Jordan?
I want to do the thing.
I want to do the thing that I'm told that I'm not supposed to do. This is basic human nature.
Yeah.
This is theological.
You can't argue with us. We're right. I'm not taking comments or criticism.
Or grievances. I don't care what you think. I'm joking. Kind of.
I care what you think.
I do care what you think. Don't think that I don't care about you. You're a lovely person, I'm sure. Whoever you are.
I want to turn back to friends. You think that you should be good friends with a person before you go on a date.
I don't think that you should. I think you ought to be good friends with this person.
Okay, we need to... I feel like we need to discuss this at a certain point. You use should and ought in different ways than I use should and ought.
Okay,
but
so,
go on. Go on.
When I say should, I mean it's a moral imperative. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that you're either sinning or you're in danger of sinning if you're not doing it. Like, you should not have sex before you get married.
I use those in the exact opposite way because
really? Okay.
An ought in philosophy is like a moral imperative. It's something that you should do. Not something like you can do or might be a good idea to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just use them opposite.
I just generally use ought as like, this is it, man. Mm-hmm. This is like, it would be a good idea for you to probably do this thing.
Yeah.
But it's not like a huge issue if you don't. But you might want to think about it a lot.
Okay.
So who's... Hey, bud.
You think you think we ought to be friends with people before?
I think it would... Let me say, just scrap the language. I think it would be a very good idea and set you up for the most success in your marriage if you're friends before you get married.
Mm-hmm. Is that it? Is that your whole shtick?
What else is like the problem? I've seen this happen, Jordan. Let's talk about this. I've seen this happen where you meet somebody and then you go on a few dates. If we want to talk about college Christian culture, and now this person is your soulmate.
Yeah.
And you're going to marry this person. This is the first person that you've ever dated, and you're going to have a relationship with this person. And then surprise, surprise, you're not really friends with this person and you've never had a relationship. So you get married and then you have sex and then you realize that the hormones are not going to last for very long in the marriage and you're not actually friends with this person and you need to have a meaningful relationship with them for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And now you're just stuck because you made a stupid mistake. And now, when I say stupid mistake, came on kind of strong there. I'm just dialing it back a little bit. You can make any relationship work.
Yeah.
You could. And once you're married, you're playing for keeps. Okay. So there, with exceptions, there's no backsies out of that, right?
Sure.
So you can make the most egregious marriages work where people don't have anything in common. Like I've seen that happen before by the grace of God, like over the marriage, right? But you are not setting yourself up for success if you're going into a marriage and you're not in a close relationship with that person beforehand, if you're just dating and getting married just because that's what you think the right thing to do is right off the bat. You should know that person really well before you get married.
Yeah. I think I mostly agree with you, mainly because I was friends with my wife first before we got married, so I don't have grounds to disagree with you like that. I don't know if necessarily... Well, I would say ideally, if you're dating somebody, again, ideally, not that this ever actually happens, but ideally, you should become friends with the person that you're dating, and you don't necessarily have to be friends first. Like, that's a relationship that can develop throughout you guys dating. I agree with you that very commonly never happens, and we are more often hormone monsters.
Well, I think the difference in our perspective in that, even though it's pretty minute, is just our experience. Because I always had friendships before we dated. Like I was always good friends with people before we started dating. But you had the dating experience to grow and become friends with them, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to date for a long period of time... But I mean, like with me and my wife, we were friends and we were good friends before like the romantic side of things came into it at all.
How long did you guys date before you got engaged?
Like date?
Like officially date.
You're going to get me in trouble. I want to say 6 months.
So fast.
Yeah.
Well, it's not fast if you're already friends. Yeah. But like, as far as like dating somebody goes, pretty fast. Pretty quick.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, dude, my parents, hi mom and dad. My mom and dad knew each other for 3 days before they got married.
Yeah.
Or before they got engaged, sorry.
That's crazy.
So,
good for them.
I mean, I was just like 6 months.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Beth and
By the way, they're still together. They've been married for over 50 years.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Praise you.
That's awesome.
Praise Jesus.
Beth and I dated for 3 years. Yeah, 3 years before we got engaged. And that was mostly because her dad told me we couldn't get married until we finished college. But like in hindsight, I was like, yeah, I could have proposed after like a year and a half, I think. Like past that point in dating, like you kind of know at that point, I think. I don't think dragging it out changes anything.
I think that, well, for me, I was definitely at the point already where I was a grown adult. Mm-hmm. I had a full-time job and I lived on my own. And it was like, I'm at this stage in my life where I could just get married right now if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was just very much of like, okay, this is the one.
Yeah.
I'm it. I'm here. Like, I'm sold. Mm-hmm. I've seen everything I needed to see.
Yeah.
I've heard everything I needed to hear. Like, at this point, we're just dragging it out. Mm-hmm. And that, I understand why people drag it out. Okay. Mm-hmm. But like for me, it was like, I'm ready. There's no reason not to. And I cannot see myself with anybody else. Yeah. And I know that that's like super, like I can't see myself. Daddy, I love her. But like, I mean, yeah, we were mature adults at that point and we already knew what we wanted out of a relationship. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, I think we should let God into all of our relationships and seek his wisdom in all things.
Yeah. I think
that end sermon was not as good as our previous end sermon.
The end sermon wasn't as good. That's fine. They can't all be zingers, but this has been our marriage pet peeves.
Yeah.
Really, if anything, and our hot takes.
We barely discussed dating and the DTR.
Really, we just talked about our experiences and the things that we think are wise. So, I mean, I'm sure everybody's got their own like little things about like what they think is good and what they think isn't good. Mm-hmm. This is just our perspective from our experiences, so don't think that we have the market cornered. We're all working and trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And marriage is hard. It takes work, and you can do everything perfectly, and you can still like wind up with somebody different because people change. Okay. Yeah. So understand that God is really the one who gets the final say, right? And that doesn't mean that we don't make choices in that, but it just means that God can work with anything, right? And so his grace is over it. And so you could have a bad marriage, a good marriage. Really, it's just about glorifying God the most that you possibly can with your marriage. So whoever you find that sets you up for success in that is the person, I think, honestly, that you want to be with. So
yeah. Amen, man.
You got any closing remarks?
No, that was beautiful.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Well, this has been Sacred Cow. I hope we didn't step on any of your sacred cows. But I
hope we did.
Or I hope we did.
Isn't that the whole
point? Now you know why we call it this, because we're just going to poop on everything that you love or we love or somebody else loves. So I guess until next time.
See ya.
Catch you later.